Winding your way down on Baker Street, lighting your head and dead on your feet. Well, another crazy day. You'll drink the night away and forget about it.
We're very fortunate to have Mr. Alvin Wilbanks at the conference today as our distinguished speaker. Mr. Wilbanks is the Superintendent of Gwinnett County Public Schools. At this time, we'd like for our Superintendent, Mr. Thurman, to come forward to introduce our distinguished speaker. Mr. Thurman.
Good morning again. It is my privilege and my honor to introduce the Dean of School Superintendents in the state of Georgia. He is a visionary educator and leader. He is known and respected all across the United States. And also, he is my neighbor and our neighbor here in DeKalb. On a personal note, and I think I can put this in the category of it's a small world, about 5 years ago, my daughter, who was a sophomore at the University of Georgia, called and said that her new roommate's grandfather was a school superintendent. And I said, which county? She said, well, let me check. And it just so happened that his granddaughter and my daughter were roommates. Oh, isn't that sweet, isn't that sweet? During their sophomore year at the University of Georgia, and his granddaughter is now a second or third year? Second year law student at Georgia State. Dr. J. Alvin Wilbanks. Third year, all right, third year. Hey, you got it made at the third year, right? She's a third year law student at Georgia State. Dr. Wilbanks was named Chief Executive Officer and Superintendent of Gwinnett County Public Schools in March 1996. At that time, he was serving concurrently as the district's Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Continuous Improvement, and also as President of Gwinnett Technical College. He was doing both, which he opened as president in 1984. Let me bag up. He began his educational career here in DeKalb County. He's one of our own. Give him a hand. Mr. Wilbanks came to Gwinnett from the Georgia Department of Education's Industrial Development Unit. He has traveled extensively abroad promoting technical vocational education and the U.S. and International Skills Olympics. He also was employed as a teacher and administrator in DeKalb County for a number of years. Since 2002, Georgia governors and the United States Secretary of Education have called on his expertise in crafting significant education reform legislation at the state and federal levels. Mr. Wilbanks served as chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Georgia Teacher Retirement System and was elected the first chairman of the Georgia Education Coalition, formed in 2006, to give school districts a unified voice in the state's legislature on funding and educational policy issues. Under Mr. Wilbanks' leadership, Gwinnett County Public Schools has earned a reputation as one of the most successful school districts in the country. The Board Foundation selected Gwinnett County Public Schools as one of the 5 finalists for the highly prestigious Award for Urban Education for 2 years in a row in 2009 and 2010. The prize honors urban school districts making the greatest progress nationwide in raising student achievement and reducing achievement gaps among ethnic groups and between low and non-low income students. Gwinnett County is the largest educational award in the country. In October 2010, Gwinnett County Public Schools were named the winner, give him a hand, of the Broad Prize for Urban Education, distinguishing Gwinnett County Public Schools as the best urban school district in America. Mr. Wilbanks has won numerous national honors and awards for his professional accomplishments and civic contributions. He was named the 2005 Georgia Superintendent of the Year and one of the 4 finalists for 2005 National Superintendent of the Year. The Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce awarded him its highest honor in 2005 as the Citizen of the Year in Gwinnett, and the Boy Scouts of America presented him with the Distinguished Citizen Award in 2008. Gwinnett Clean and Beautiful awarded him its highest honor, the Environmental Legacy Award. In January 2012, Mr. Wilbanks is a leader in many civic organizations, including the Gwinnett County Board of Public Health, Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, Lawrenceville Rotary Club, the American Cancer Society, the Northeast Georgia Council of Boy Scouts of America, and the Council for Quality Growth. He is a graduate of the first class of Leadership Gwinnett. Superintendent Wilbanks earned his bachelor's and master's degree in education from the University of Georgia, Go Dogs, and his education specialist degree from Georgia State University, Go Panthers. He is a member of several professional organizations and is a leader in his church. He and his wife have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren. Gwinnett County has within its midst one of the great educational leaders, not just currently, but in the history of Georgia public education. DeKalb, please rise and welcome this outstanding man who has come to spend time with us today, Dr. Alvin Wilbanks.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Appreciate you very much. Good morning. You know, I love to hear the, you don't want to hear me that loud. I love to hear the introductions that people get, and thank you for that, Michael. I know it is true that we have known each other for a number of years, and I've had the utmost respect for your superintendent. As a matter of fact, Maureen Downey called me the day that you was named. I did not know it until Maureen called me and asked me what did I think. I said, well, I don't know but one Michael Thurman, but if it's the one I know, that's great. And she said, well, why would you say that? And I said, well, you may recall he used to be in the legislature. He also ran one of the toughest state agencies there is to run, DFACS. And he obviously was Commissioner of Labor and really an award-winning labor department for the nation. And I said, I think DeKalb County schools will be in good hands. And I can say that today and really have enjoyed working with him. Have me labeled as a distinguished speaker. I obviously know that I'll be leaving here in a few minutes, and that's all to no avail. Okay, you go back home and you got all that work to do. I didn't even bring an attaché case today because I'm not sure if it's 50 miles here anyway. So there's no need me carrying an attaché case, sort of help that expert status. You know, it's got to be over 50 miles, and you have to have an attaché case. Well, I said, look, it's not over 50 miles. Forget the attaché case. I just have a little portfolio. I brought my notes in. I know you all are not going to believe this next statement, but it's true. Now, that's a bad way to start a statement off, but you're just not going to believe it. Because I know when you look at me, you just said it couldn't be. 50 years ago, next month, I reported to Briarcliff High School for the new teacher orientation, Gwinnett County Public Schools. I'm sorry, DeKalb County Public Schools. See, I'm already messed up, hadn't even got into it. I arrived at Briarcliff that morning. I had come the day before and found out where Briarcliff was. As a matter of fact, I'd never, ever been on La Vista Road or Briarcliff Road in my life. Coming down 85, I'd seen that, but I'd never been on. So I ride by to make sure I knew where to go and how long it would take me. Of course, the traffic then wasn't exactly as bad as it is now. there were no parking spaces. None. So I drive down the street, and it was getting near time for it to start. I didn't want to be late because I just felt lucky that they hired me. And I didn't see any parking spaces, but there was this neighborhood, and there was a gentleman out washing his car. And I asked him, told him what I was doing. He said, yeah, pull in right here. And he said, by the way, your car needs washing. You want me to wash your car? You said, you're a teacher, aren't you? I said, yeah. I said, well, I may wash your car, but I won't promise. So when I got back, he washed my car. So started off on a good note. I say that to say, I owe a lot to a lot of people in my career. I always thought that two of the best things that ever happened to me, I've always worked for good people. I've always worked with good people. Those are two outstanding things to a person's career. And in DeKalb County schools, we used to have, I'm not sure we called it a leadership conference back then, but it was a leadership workshop. And Jim Cherry was superintendent, a very dynamic superintendent. Not Michael now in his class. No, Michael is, I'm not. But he was one of the superintendents that you either liked or you didn't like. Now, fortunately, most people liked him. He was a great superintendent. But he ensured that DeKalb prepared for what it needed to be. So we had those workshops. They were week-long, 5 days, not 4, but 5. Ours is, 3.5, Bernie, or 3 days? 2.5. And for 5 days, you got the things that you, Mr. Cherry and others felt you needed to get. But I'll never forget my first few years in DeKalb, and I'll get off of this and get on to my comments. But I did want to make this connection with you because I feel very honored to be here today. But when, in those workshop times, we learned a lot of things about management, about a lot of things about leadership. And for this old country boy, I learned everything I knew about management and leadership in DeKalb County Schools. I say that all the time, and I'll say it today as I'm here with you. I'll never forget that when I reported to Tucker High School, first of all, this is audience participation time. Just a quick hand up. If you know of these people or work with them. At the time, Bill Armstead was assistant principal at Tucker. Yeah, few. Harold Turpin was a principal. Rennie Hallford was a teacher. Yeah, and just on and on. And I don't know, I'd been there maybe a couple of years, and I got this call at the beginning of the summer from Nita Shadburn. Let's see the hands. Ms. Shadburn, no, somebody here's got to remember Ms. Shadburn. Melvin, you don't remember Ms. Shadburn? Yeah, okay. Now, what happened, she cleaned his plate one day, so he wasn't going to admit that. She could do that in a professional type way. But anyway, Ms. Shadburn called me and wanted me to do some curriculum writing. First of all, I didn't feel qualified. I found out she didn't have anybody else in my area, so I spent the summer writing curriculum. I attended like a 2-3 day meeting to find out what we were supposed to do and whatever. And the thing I missed was she gave us a packet. And I did that, turned it in, and you'd have to turn them in along, and they'd check them. And so when I finished, turned all my work in, I get a call from Ms. Shadburn. Actually, I think it was Navi Harris. Anybody remember that name? Yeah, a few. Ms. Harris called, said, Mr. Wilbanks, you haven't finished your work. And I'm sitting, good gracious, what did I like? Said, you didn't do your timesheet. And now I know what a timesheet was, and I even knew what a timesheet was then. But I was putting that in the context of curriculum, okay? So I couldn't figure what in the world a timesheet was. So she said, you got to get paid, and we can't pay you unless we have a timesheet. First of all, Melvin, I didn't even know I was getting paid. I didn't. I just thought I was supposed to do it. So anyway, she figured out a way to get that done, and I'll never forget that. I use that to say I think that's the history of this school district. It takes care of its people. Good organizations take care of its people. So what she did, she got all the other people, and there were a bunch of people because they were major curriculum development going on at that time. And they sort of got a number that other people had done, and she, Ms. Harris said, could you go by Tucker High School? We're going to cure it out there and sign that. Now, if you have any questions about it, let me know. When I saw that, I was so happy. I don't even know what it said. I just signed it. And I got more money than I'd ever had in my life. Up to that time. And it just goes to show that I think when you're with a great organization, that they help you grow, they understand some things. Of course, now is a little different day. The accountability, the expectations are much higher. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that organizations such as this one has a long history of dealing with its people for whatever I'm worth. You may not be proud to claim, but I just know how I was developed, how I grew as a member of the school district. And the superintendent, I just wanted to say that today and to make a connection between my experience with this school system. And I was here about 17 years, 16 and a half years to be exact. How many of you were not born in 1964? Raise your hand. Wow. Man, you just heard an ancient story. And it's probably good that we're on stage here today because, maybe there's something about it that'll inspire you. Let me move now. Now, by the way, they gave me a clicker here, or a pointer, and it's got a button on it. And I'm not sure if I'm going forward or backward, but we'll try to get them right. First of all, I understand you all are sort of operating under the theme of David and Goliath. And I thought, as a matter of fact, thanks for the book. I had not read that book before. I had read Gladwell's Outliers. I'd read that book. It's a great writer. I've heard him talk about that, the David and Goliath book. But I also, no matter what rumors you may hear, I do go to church. And I actually teach Sunday school and have taught Sunday school for over 40 years. And I'm a self-proclaimed, note that terminology, I'm a self-proclaimed Old Testament expert. So I'd read the story of David and Goliath. I could recant it verbatim. But reading that book, I had never actually thought about that in that light. It's powerful. It's very meaningful. So I said, well, let me see if I can bring that in with the comments that I want to make today. And I'll try to do that. But obviously that story is well known. The record of that is such that anybody that's ever been in church or Sunday school knows it, but I dare say that there are probably a lot of people like myself that hadn't quite made that connection. But I'm doing that in the context of what your theme is here this morning, improving growth and achievement. Improving growth and achievement. A David for every Goliath. Now, let's see if we can pick some of the Davids and Goliaths out there. Let me do that by asking some questions, and I'll ask the question and then I'll answer it. How's that? I noted about the third time of audience participation, it waned a little bit, the hands sort of like that. But seriously, how many K-12 students in this nation, how many will be going back to school sometimes in the next month? About 50.1 million, they tell us. Okay? They'll be going to schools, there's about 100,000 schools in the country. Now, if you look on the educational statistics, the U.S. Department of Education, many of those are actual 2, maybe even 3 years back. So they estimate for about 2 or 3 years, depending on whatever the particular data point is. There are also about 3.7 million teachers. Of that 3.7 million, 3.4 million are public school teachers, the other private parochial schools. There are somewhere in the neighborhood of 14,000 school districts in the country. You all are in one of the largest school districts in the country. If you really take the school districts that have enrollments above 90 to 100,000, about a quarter of the students in America attend those school districts. The average size school district in the country is about 3,500 students. So you're one of the big boys, so to speak. Now, should that make us a Goliath? Well, in some ways maybe, but I say not, for a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is, educators, now listen to this closely. If you don't hear anything else I say, listen at this one. Educators, for the most part, could not agree to leave a burning room. Somebody would object. Somebody would have a better route. So that sort of lessens our numbers sometimes. Now, I don't know that that's all bad. Certainly, I think we're all proud of the fact that we do have some local control. We all are proud of the fact that there are still a few things that we can make some decisions on. But we aren't the Goliath in this story. Let's take the other side. And first of all, I'm not here today to paint anybody in a bad light, but if you've picked up a paper lately, have you seen more pro-education articles or more negative education articles? Which one? Negative. It's a steady diet. It's not about, many times, it's not about reporting the news, but it's about making news. Something happens and you make the story sensational or whatever. Those are the things that we are confronted with. And then there are the policy wonks, the policy makers, the legislators that just simply know best. They make these rules and regulations, and you almost have to get a dictionary to trace back, is this pertaining to education? We also have a number of people out there that the worse your kid looks, the better mine looks. You know? The worse yours looks, the better mine looks. Folks, I'm saying that's the Goliath that we face. Now, and we ain't even really got into what the real challenge about what education is about, and that is educating every child to the highest level possible. And that's what I sort of want to do today. So how do we have, Mr. Superintendent, as I think you've asked, how do we have a David for every Goliath? And I'm saying there's a story in that. I may not have it right, you may not agree with it, and that's okay. Like I said, I'll be gone in 2 hours. No. Superintendent Thurman said, take whatever time you want, we're leaving in an hour. I haven't yet got bad off enough to talk to empty seats, so I'll be done. But in any case, as we look at some things, I think there we go. I want to give you 2 frameworks that I believe will help make us all Davids against a huge giant out there. And you know, over 3,000 years ago, whenever that battle on the Philistine battlefield took place, David and Goliath have really represented in modern times the underdog against Goliath. That's sort of the analogy, the take of that. So, what you see here is Reform Governance Framework. I'm not promoting this framework. I'm just saying that a framework is a set of beliefs that allow you to accomplish your goals in a manner that you couldn't do otherwise, whether it's this one or another one. By the way, that's the last time you'll see that one from me, but I just wanted to show you. That deals with governance. It's very important. And I want to commend you all for really the work that has gone on here in the past year and a half in this respect. And then the next one is this, the PELP Coherent Framework, and there's a story behind that I want to show you. First of all, I was really pleased when you all brought a team of people last year up to the PELP Institute. PELP is Public Education Leadership Project. Let me tell you about that quickly. First of all, this is audience participation, but rhetorically. Okay? How many reform initiatives, how many reform efforts have we had in education or for education or about education in these United States of America since, let's just say, 1990? Oh my God, you're saying. I can't count that high. We've had a lot of them. Now, those reform initiatives have taken on various and sundry forms. First of all, again, audience, and I really need everybody participating on this one. I'm assuming that most of you aren't teachers today by name and title. But are there any teachers in the audience? And I think all of us, okay, well, good. But I really got to ask the follow-up question. Now, are you really a teacher in the classroom? You know, if I'm not a teacher up here today, I'm going to waste my time and yours, aren't I? But you all are really teachers in the classroom, right? Okay, great. Most of the critics like you. Notice I did say most, not everybody. But the rest of us, most of the critics see absolutely no need for you. Has that ever occurred to you? Because all the focus of the reforms have been at the school level. None of them prior to 2003 had even remotely considered the district office. None of them. Bill Gates funded the small school strategy or theory of change. $2 billion. 5 years later, what was the announcement about it? By the way, it was made in Europe. Has no effect. Has no effect. Manual High School in Denver, Colorado, old school. Many of the people that attended there were in the power structure of the money. They took it and divided it up. It was actually a poor school when they did that. It was a terrible school when it finished. Didn't work. And I could go on and on recounting the various reform initiatives that's been done. So the Harvard, now listen at this. And by the way, you can read about this on the website, and I'm sure the team that went up there will have some information for you. But this study said, look, the district office, there has to be a role. Otherwise, it has to be the unit of change. It has to be the unit of improvement. So how do we look at that? And that's what they did. Now, who looked at it? Many times we have groups that come and look at the schools, tell us how they ought to be run, and every now and then they come up with a good idea, and we should be thankful for that. But they normally don't have anybody that's a practitioner at the table. So the Harvard Business School, that's correct, the Harvard Business School and the Graduate School of Education at Harvard joined together. They had half from the business school, half from the education school, to really look at what is the role of the district office. I asked you this morning, what is the role of the district office? This is what they found out. They launched a study, and I'm going to flip through these very quickly. My message is not on the PowerPoints, but I think I need to do that to really come back to it, to context it. But the purpose was to create a framework for achieving high student performance across an entire school district. Prior to that time, and quite frankly, even today, not one, certainly not two, not one district can say that it has across the district in every school and every classroom high performance or doing the job it's really supposed to. So we still have some work to do, but it said they want to create a framework. Surely there are some things that we've done in the past that we can do that will really allow us to do this, and that we can implement that strategy to really achieve the goals we need to, and we do it in a sustainable way. Second thing was that it sought to find out what does an organization that supports a strategy for improving teaching and learning throughout the school set, what does it look like? Remember the PELP framework now, that's what it looks like, okay? How does central office build the critical structures, the systems and cultures? Does a management model exist? What leadership and management practices from other sectors might be relevant? Now, let me pause on that one just a moment. Guess what the business people, now these were people that, and I can't recall them all, but one of those professors was Alan Grossman of the business school. And he and his colleagues, and then the colleagues from the Graduate School of Education concluded that, first of all, schools, particularly urban schools, such as DeKalb, large school districts, are more complex than Fortune 500 companies. Now, that's what they said. That's not my finding. Actually, I've been doing that for years. But it's more powerful when they say it. Now, they also said that, you know, how many times have you heard? Well, let me just ask it in reverse. Has anybody in here not heard at least once, run a school like a business? Anybody not heard that? You hear it all the time, don't you? Well, they said you can't run a school like a business because whatever similarities they have, it's still too complex to do that like a business. You got to run it like a school. But the district is a little different matter. There can be frameworks, there can be systems, and as a matter of fact, there has to be. So in doing this, I think they found out that some of these things did not exist, but it gave them verification that we've got to look at the district office, the district. It also found out so far, now remember this was started in 2003, they're actually still studying this. As a matter of fact, Grossman told me this past month at the PELP thing that he's retired. He's since retired, and he still works with the PELP program. But he's now working with the Chamber of Commerce to meet with CEOs to really see if there can be a closer connection with them and help them better understand the complexities of education, and particular school districts, large school districts. And I admire them for that. But said that there were urban school systems are vastly more complex than businesses. Now, what businesses are they talking about? Mom and pop stores? No, they're talking about the GMs, the Exxons, the Walmarts, so forth and so on. Knowledge about how to manage them is amazingly sparse. Public school systems, not a business. The difference are greater than the similarities. Would you agree with that? Okay. Mandates force a slew of unrelated initiatives that collectively consume massive resources. So you can read that, so forth and so on. How many laws do we get out of the legislature every year? Now, we really got a great one this year for education. We got the gun bill. That's all we need is everybody to be packing. Now, I'm not against guns in the right place for the right use and the right environment. But I don't include a school, one of those environments, the right place or the need, unless it's in the hands of law enforcement or authorized folks. I don't apologize for that. Also, stability in relationship with boards and superintendents present complex challenges. My board asked me a few years ago, are you going to the National School Board Association conference? I said, no. They asked me why. I said, too many board members there. They knew I was kidding. We have to work together. This is not something that the superintendent can have one set of goals and the board can have another set of goals. It's hard enough to achieve one set. We have to work together as a team. They concluded with that. And then training for districts administrators ranged from inadequate to appalling. Central office is often the dumping grounds. Oh, me. Listen, I made one vow to myself when I became superintendent. I said, I will not move somebody into the district office that's failing in a school. I'm just not going to do it. I modified that a tad. I mean, I'm with neighbors, just be honest, but in a real leadership position. There are things they could do. Listen, I believe in talent management. I don't know that we have too many throwaway people. There are some things that people can do. I'm here to tell you, everybody can't be a principal. No matter how much they want to be, they can't be. Everybody can't be a associate superintendent or deputy, whatever the titles are. As a matter of fact, everybody can't be an effective teacher. They just can't be. Now, all of that said, as we look further, and I need to close here, I'm supposed to be done at 11:15, right? Yeah, okay, I'll be done. I may not be done, but I'll quit. About that. But these are more findings. But look at the last one. Now, this is not just something they put on the slide. These are not my word. This is right out of the playbook, folks. It said a lot of the findings that they found in looking at the other reforms recommended you just do away with the central office. It's not worth anything anyway. It gets in the way. And what an indictment. Thank goodness some things are happening. Thank goodness there are some things that says that not only should it make a difference, but it is. It has to. Found out about governance. Schools have strong and vocal stakeholders who often hold divergent opinions. Look, the hardest thing I've ever tried to do, and we implemented a gateway assessment program that says a child has to pass an exam in grade 4, grade 7. In order to advance to the next grade, you got to pass it in high school in order to get a diploma from Gwinnett County Public School. I didn't have near the grief over that as I did when I tried to change the school times. I'm here to tell you. I had people from churches calling me. I never heard such language. And I actually thought I'd been called everything until this minister. He wasn't the senior minister, but he was on the staff of a church. And I'm not here to, I told you I teach Sunday school. Churches and schools are great. But my point is, this just gets magnified on steroids, X15 on steroids sometimes. And in face of all that, we've got to make these changes. Well, folks, those are our Goliaths. Okay? And what we've got to do then, we've got to figure out some ways in which we can make this change and this adaptation. See if I can move through here. before I do have to quit in the middle of a sentence. Here are the 5 challenges that they came up with. First of all, the thing they really found out about school districts. Superintendents were guilty of, the districts were guilty of it, obviously school boards. We saw so many things as independent of each other. When we're trying to make some improvement in areas like that, we call them silos. You know, people operating in their own domain, not my pay grade, too high above my pay grade, or that's not my responsibility. But they said 5 things need to happen. Implement the strategy effectively across schools with different characteristics. You know, it's not just enough for one school to be great. How many schools in the district need to be great? All of them. It's not just good that most of your classrooms have quality and effective instructions, but how many of them need that happening? All of them, across the district. So every school, every classroom, every school in the district. And then the second thing is redesigning the organization so that it supports the strategy. I'm going to show you something that you may not totally agree with, but that's okay. You probably not agree with everything I said this morning anyway. Develop and manage human capital. Carry out the strategy. Folks, we as school districts have to look at this one. Again, I'm not talking about throwing people away, but get people in the right seat on the bus. Jim Collins, was Collins, wasn't it? Yeah. Get people in the right seat. And don't be afraid to do that. It's better for them. Totally better for students. Allocate resources in alignment with the strategy. And then using performance data for decision making, organizational learning, and accountability. Those are the 5 things that the PELP report said school districts, if you really want to make a difference, has to be done. Now, this is a slide, and I don't have time to context that, but let me just show you. This is called academic accountability. Now, first of all, where does most academic accountability take place at? Where? At school. That's where what we stand for, what we're about, gets played out. However, a lot of times when the school's not performing, who do we point to? The school. They got to do better. What this shows is there's a whole bunch of folks up above there that need to take ownership and responsibility. It's just not the principal of Slippery Rock Elementary School and the teachers at Slippery Rock Elementary School. It's some other people that have some ownership in that. Now, I haven't excluded the other divisions, other departments. This slide didn't come out. We transported that. I asked them to put that in at the last minute. But there's a light shade of whatever color that is. I call that green. What would you call it, sir?
Green.
I'm here to tell you there are a lot of people with a color problem. You probably don't see that as green, do you? But anyway, whatever color it is. There should be some light shades of that color. Notice, obviously, the primary accountability has to be at the school level, but responsibility and support and ownership has to be at other places as well. And until that's happening, you don't have that coherent framework that we're talking about. Then gets down to operational accountability. And it's hard to see this, but can you tell, I don't know if that's the point, I'm afraid to push this button, it could just blow up on me. But where you see local schools, you see it's lighter. See the operational accountability, the district owns that. Now, that's not to say that schools don't have some operational accountability. But all of this is leading into what we and what I think the PELP people call the PELP framework. That really, I'm trying to get back to this, but I don't believe I'm going to be able to do it. Sir, I done messed your pointer up here. You remember the circle. That's the coherent framework. That's what I wanted to go back to. But that says you have a school district that everybody in that school district is working toward whatever the goals and objectives are. Every division. And you're doing that in a way that it shows that we trust each other, we support each other, we do the things that we have to do for students or for children. And in doing so, we develop that synergy. That the whole is greater than what? Sum of the parts. So I think what we've got to do in public education is capitalize on the philosophy of David. First of all, they wanted him to put on armor, didn't he? He didn't buy that. He said, I'm going to stick with what I know. I'm going to stick with my expertise. They wanted him to do several things. Oh, it's not working. Okay. That's good. He had a strategy. What was his strategy? It was to fail Goliath before he failed him or killed him. I hate to use that word, but that's what it meant. That was his strategy. But he was going to do it his way. But not just his way because of it his way. It was the way he was trained. The sling, piece of leather or cloth, generally leather, with 2 strings on it. I'm told by the people who supposedly know, and I'm not one of them, that the people who are skilled at that, you can come within a hair's distance of your target. Goliath had one exposed place, didn't he? He also, Goliath called him out. He was expecting him to come up and bump chest and joust all those things, and David knew he couldn't do that. Know what your business is, know what you can and you can't do, and be prepared for it. Be good at it. Now, back home, we used to have what we call flips. Take a dogwood tree, a fork, and we'd take an inner tube and cut strings on it. That's right. You know, you shoot that. Most of you would be safe if I had one here this morning. I'm not sure I'm not very accurate. But the people that are good at slings, they're good at it. What's our business? Our business is teaching and learning, isn't it? With an emphasis on learning. So that's what we need to be about doing. Not hindered with all of the stuff that comes at us. And I understand sometimes you have to deal with things. If there's a ruckus in the school, somebody better deal with it, right? If there's a fire in the back hallway, somebody better deal with it. But day in and day out, our focus has to be on instructions, quality and effective instructions. And I think that's what I hope to leave with you today is there are a lot of Goliaths out there. But each of us need to be a David. We need to latch on to some frameworks, folks, that has a strategy. Yes, thank you. The teacher there. Teacher represents their knowledge and skills. Did David have any? He sure did. Did he have a theory of change? Yes. Did he have a strategy? Yes. Now, did he have any resources? Yeah, he had a sling. And how many stones? 5 stones. He took that and he did the unbelievable. I contend that education today, we have a great window of opportunity to do the unbelievable. If we can just buy into a framework that focuses everything while we're working together for the good of children, that's focused on teaching and learning with an emphasis on learning. My message to you this morning is that none of us have it right, but a lot of people have it more right than others. So let's look at the more right, and let's improve on that we don't. And I want to commend you today, and Superintendent Thurman, I want to commend you for the job that you've done, your staff, and those of you that carry on the day-to-day operation of this school district. And I particularly want to thank the teachers that are here today for the work you do each and every day. You make a difference in the life of a child, in the life of a family, in a community, in a state, and in a nation. 3 things, I'll close with this, that has made this nation, I think, great. I take the church and the family and sort of put them over here because those are obvious. But the first thing is our form of government, our representative republic. Some say our representative democracy. Now, a lot of people are confused. They think we live in a democracy. We do not. They think everything you do, you need to call everybody together and debate it. We live in a representative democracy. You elect people to make decisions about institutions and whatever. But our form of government is what one of the number one things made this nation great. Second thing is how we do our business and commerce. That free enterprise, that entrepreneurial spirit that creates jobs, that creates demand, that creates wealth, that allow us to have our quality of living that we want, that we need, we enjoy. And then the third thing is how we educate our children. 90% of the children in this nation are educated in public schools. Since they've been counting, it's been about 90%. I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,300 charter schools in the nation. I'm not sure what the number of kids are, homeschool, parochial school. I'm not opposed. If it works, fine. But it's the public schools that has made this nation what it is, and I think it will be the public schools educating youngsters is what's going to build this nation to what it needs to be moving forward. I've enjoyed being with you today. Keep up the great work. God bless. Thank you, sir.
That was great. Thank you, Doc. That was great. Dr. Alvin J. Wilbanks, a great educational leader. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilbanks.